A 1-2, a 1-2. We're going to start freestyling.
I know, right? Can you freestyle?
I suck at freestyling.
Yeah, me too. I've tried in the past.
Yeah, like I'll get to drinking. I'm like, oh, I'm killing it.
Oh, yeah.
And then that's because I feel like you drink and you're not judging yourself. But I'm too in my head when I try and freestyle.
Oh, yeah. I couldn't find anything that rhymed with Alex.
Carla. Carla Barla? Like, what are we doing?
Tarla. No.
Alex, she's a phallus. Hey, welcome to the podcast. First of all, shout out to Luke.
Yes.
You guys can't see him right now, but
he's helping us get this our whole life together.
Shucker Studios.
Yes.
I'm Shucker alumni, by the way.
No.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. I got my bachelor's.
What?
Criminal justice.
Oh, yes.
Criminal justice.
Can we talk about that for a second? Because what intrigues you so much about that career?
I wanted to be a lawyer and then dive into like the behavioral part of it and criminology, and it was just so. But you know what?
Yeah.
So I was in this criminology class. We were talking about serial killers. Seems interesting, right?
Right.
Well, I have an art background. I like
Yeah.
to sketch and stuff. And so we had to do a presentation. I was like, I'm going to sketch Ted Bundy, right? Big poster. I started sketching him, and it just started feeling weird.
Ooh.
I'm like learning about him, and it just, I like got 75% of it done, and I just stopped.
Because you can draw too, right? I mean, you do art.
I'm a pretty good sketcher.
Okay.
I paint.
Yeah.
I do a little something. I used to sell paintings and stuff. You know
Okay, look at you. I could trace a fine piece of picture.
Calling someone a tracer who was into art is such an insult. Like, you a tracer. Like, no, I'm not, I swear.
It's like poser.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So insulting. But
Never had that talent to be able to draw.
what are some of your talents?
Anything to do with communication.
You're good at just conversating. I don't know if conversating is a word. Like, we'll be in a room where we just be talking to people, and you'll just keep going like, wow. Just
Man.
keeping the conversation going.
It's so funny because in my relationships, I would try to explain to these men, and I'm like, hey, how I work things out in myself, I have to talk it out. I have to lay it out in front of me, and I do that by way of talking. And you don't have to say anything. There's something about the physical act of saying, when the words leave my body, it's like, oh, it's starting to make sense. But when I'm up in here with it, it feels jumbled. Like
I feel like you got to get it out.
oh, yeah. Whether through by journaling or talk therapy in some
Yeah.
kind of way.
See, I don't like to really share my emotions and feelings through words. So I like to write it down or something, but it helps when I do it, even though I don't like doing it.
Yeah.
Like I told you, you're in therapy.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I am not in therapy in the traditional regard because I always felt like, well, what if the therapist is going to like take my information and tell somebody?
Oh my God. Yeah.
Did you never feel like that?
I do feel that way.
Okay. It's like, so what do you do? Oh, I'm in media.
Literally what I say
You know
all the
what
time.
I'm saying? I'm in communications.
Yeah.
And then finally they're like, oh, you're on the radio?
Holy crap. Wait till these people find out how fucked up you are.
Oh, yeah, Alex? Wait, you see my notes.
So, yes, I do think about that all the time. I'm like, man, I wonder if people share the same type of shit that I go through.
Right.
Or if it seems cliche. I'm always afraid of being cliche.
Yeah. You know what I did is RTT therapy.
Yes.
It's, what does that stand for? Somebody's watching this like, how the hell?
I think I've heard of that.
Rapid transformational therapy. It's like where you go into like a trance state.
Yeah.
And then they like go into your subconscious and they plant things.
What?
And it takes like almost 3 to 4 hours.
Were you able to dig up quite a bit for shadow work?
So I went into that because we had like a pre-meeting before we went into the therapy session. And she's like, you might cry. I was like, I'm not going to cry.
Please. Yeah.
Cry.
Right.
Cry like a freaking baby,
Oh
bawled.
my gosh.
Because what she did is you go in and you like find things in your past life. This isn't like past life regression. This is like your current life, but in your past.
Yeah.
You go and you find things, and she's like, name tell me an instant when you were a child and you felt, discriminated against, when you felt, unfairly treated.
Yeah.
Or when someone was mean to you. And so you're like diving into all these like childhood things and you're just crying.
Yeah.
But what's interesting is I didn't realize I had childhood trauma with certain things or teenage trauma until I'm sitting telling someone else. And I felt like I was, because you're like in a meditative state while you're talking.
Yeah.
And I felt like I was looking over me.
What?
Looking over me, explaining to someone what someone went through, almost like third person.
So you were able to observe yourself.
I was able to observe myself. And I think that's part of the healing, acknowledging when something was done to you and it's not okay, because it's like, wow, I wouldn't want someone else to go through that. Wait, that was me though.
That is like, isn't it so interesting how we have naturally that empathy for when we see others going through that, but when it comes to our own things, we'll kind of,
It's like we have this blocker.
we almost like gaslight ourselves and to be like, oh, that's like when I first started therapy.
Or maybe we think we deserved it.
Yes, or that. And that's like a whole other thing.
Yeah.
And when we first started, he was asking me, okay, what are some traumas that you feel like you've been through?
And you're like, I didn't really have any. And you start naming stuff.
Life's been good. I've had a charmed life, you know. And he's like,
He's like, okay, let's paddle a little bit deeper into the ocean, sweetie.
Oh my
Does the sand feel good? Yeah, it feels good on your toes.
how deep do you want to go?
Let's go to the sharks.
Oh my gosh.
And you're like, holy shit.
It gets really real. And things that I didn't consider, like you said, as traumatic experiences were things that I realized that I hadn't processed. That's just kind of been sitting there stagnant. And we don't realize how much that affects our energy.
Oh my God.
And how we deal with people in life.
Relationships,
Career.
other adults, career, holding on to that victim mindset. Because even though we were victims and it wasn't your fault,
Right.
you still have a victim mentality.
Yes.
Something's going to remind you, like something happened in high school. So when I think of my old high school, I get that little trigger, like, ugh.
Oh my God.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just the little things I can set it off. So talking about it, and then during the session, there's this thing where you kind of like throw it away. You
Yes.
dissolve it.
Yeah.
And it's pretty, and then
That's awesome.
Yeah. And then you implant, positive things and just, it was really intriguing.
How do you, now that you've been through that experience, how do you think that people that don't go through RTT could practically do that every day?
Shadow work.
Just observe and like, when I first started hearing about, okay, first of all, there would be two terms that would piss me off. It would be like, just love yourself. And it would be like, you need to go do shadow work.
Mine's go within. Go within.
What the fuck
Don't
does that
nobody
even
go
mean?
within.
I don't want to be there. Because first of all, for a strong part of my life, I spent a long time running from myself. So to say go within can seem very
Scary.
Yes. And violent to some people. Like, this feels no thank you.
Yeah.
And so when I started to do that, I was like, I started doing shadow work without knowing that I was doing shadow work. I started seeing things
How
come
crazy
up.
we have to trick our mind.
Yes.
This ain't shadow work. I'll do this.
Yeah.
Little did we know.
Yeah. Anything painful.
Look at you healing.
Girl, you know, it's a journey for sure. But that's,
So do you do like actual journal shadow work now?
yeah. So I've always journaled. I just didn't know that that's what I was doing when I would observe the tough parts of my life. And so how I would explain it is that, like, when I would journal before, it would kind of be surface, but then the more you start to get to know yourself and talk to yourself, you get deeper, kind of like a relationship. And the deeper you go, it's kind of like you have this yarn ball and you have the string and you just pull the string. And the more that you pull it, the more you unravel. And there's this core center, right? That's the goal to get to, so that once that makes sense, because we can't heal what we don't reveal. So when you have that up in the open and you're like, oh, holy crap. Okay. It was because my mom did this, or my dad did this, or this happened in school.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Like recently I was like, dude, I feel like when I go in spaces, I used to, and I'm trying to heal this part, but I would take up the smallest amount of space as possible.
What do you mean?
Like emotionally, not wanting to use my voice, not wanting to be in my authentic self, because I walked around feeling like I only had a corner of a room.
Aww.
Yeah. And I didn't know that I was dealing with that until therapy. And so
What do you think that stemmed from? Something in the childhood?
Definitely.
Not being heard?
Yes. Sometimes, we're all humans on our journey.
Are
and
we?
When we, right? Some of us are aliens. When we realize, when we get to a certain place, like we realize like, oh, our parents are just learning. And so.
And that takes some healing before you can get to that place of forgiveness.
To get out of the blame.
To get out of the victim mentality.
That part. And we're just like, oh, you didn't know any better. You weren't taught this.
Right.
Now, I made the first mistake when I first learned that, and I would go back and try to teach and parent my parents.
Same.
But
or judge them.
Or
try and change them.
That is something that I see pretty common now, is like that spiritual ego. I'm just like, well, I vibrate high regardless.
Right. Like, you know what? I went through that. Like when I went through the healing process, I remember I went to like this little get together and I was just judging everybody like, they're not even on my spiritual level. Like, why am I even here?
Yes.
And I think that in itself means you have some healing to do. When you're letting your environment still affect you like that, that is just as bad as all the other shit.
Honestly, that's something that I'm still working on. That to me is spiritual maturity. When your relationship with yourself is so grounded and solid to where no matter what environment you're in, you stay rooted. That is an accomplishment.
Especially when you're still around the people who are in the same toxic space or the space before you started growing.
Yes.
These aren't always people you can just get away from easily. Sometimes it's a sister, sometimes it's a brother, sometimes it's your mom or dad, sometimes it's a significant other.
Right.
And I feel like as people heal and grow, it's tough because it's like, damn, my own husband is part of the problem, or damn, my mom, or you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you just start seeing things and I feel like the biggest struggle is, who do I cut off and who do I just learn to maybe love at a distance?
That it's having that discernment. And like I would struggle with myself. You know, sometimes I struggle and I'm like, oh, is this something that I need to rise to the occasion of and help and be more malleable and shift because I have this knowledge that maybe they haven't realized yet. But then I think that goes down to boundaries. Like just because you can handle something doesn't mean you have to.
Right.
We only have, I've been so on, like we have the three of our biggest resources are time, energy, and what's the third one? So we treat time and energy like resources, right? And so it's like you only have a limited amount. And say if I have this cup and I'm pouring it out, trying to dodge your projections, trying to dodge your opinions, by the end of the day, I don't have anything left.
You'll be tired as hell.
You know? So it's like I've really been working to establish those boundaries. Boundaries are not a bad thing. They help us. And if I'm placing them with you, that means I love you and I care about our relationship.
Right.
And I think offense gets picked up. You know, people get offended like,
oh, yeah.
Hold on now.
Right.
You mean I can't have unlimited access to you? No.
You mean I can't talk to you like that?
No.
Since when?
Girl, bye.
One thing that I'm trying to work on too is just loving people and just leaving it at that. Like you said, not trying to change them, not judging like, oh, why does she do this? Or why does he do that? Like, because it's not really my place at this point.
Yeah.
Especially if it's just somebody who's always going to be around.
Right.
It's like me using the energy, wondering this, hoping that, just love them.
Yeah.
Be like, I always say people who are a brick wall, you don't see them changing. You know, they're at a certain age. You can just tell nothing you do. They just have a lot more lives to live.
Yeah.
They got a lot more. They just have more in whatever, you know, whatever you believe in. I just think they have a lot more they're going to experience to evolve them into whatever. And maybe I'm the wrong one.
You know,
maybe I'm over here like, oh.
We could at the end of all this be like, they was like, you're wrong.
Right. Like, oh shit.
You actually missed the entire point. Let's throw you back in there.
And then you turn back into a baby and you're like, oh, here we are again.
Exactly.
Start over.
Remembering nothing.
Speaking of babies.
Oh, yeah.
I wanted to talk about something because you mentioned, I think you might have made a post about it, but you were just talking about, I was like, you know, how are you doing? Because I feel like there's not a lot of conversation, at least that I see, whether on social media or wherever, about post baby. Like, you know, the first like few weeks after you have a baby.
Right.
It's tough.
Yeah.
Women, hormones are changing.
Yeah.
Your life is different.
Way different.
So much adjustment. But then also like after that period, I feel like there's so much that happens that's not talked about.
Well, it's like, it's funny. that we're talking about this because, you know, that was, as recently as that happened, that was even a part of shadow work. Like, it doesn't even have to be super deep, because I realized I've had my first son when I was 15, and the congruency to now when I have my second son, and the version of me that my oldest got, Braylon, I had to, like, I'm getting chills talking about it. I had to reach back there at 15 and figure out what trauma that was, because there was a lot that there at 15 years old, you know, having a child, that's easy.
A big life milestone to go through.
Can't even conceptualize it. Your brain isn't even developed enough to. And there was so much trauma that came up from his birth that I hadn't processed.
Yeah.
And I remember being pregnant and I felt bad. I was like, oh my God, like, Miles is going to get such a different version of me than Braylon. And that breaks my heart, because I'm at a place where I can mother differently and I've healed some things.
Yeah.
And I want them just to both know that I love them. It's just that he gets a different me and I had to grow up with him. And so people will see our relationship and it kind of feels sibling-esque. But during Miles's birth, that was like, I ended up having to have Braylon's birth was a C-section, emergency C-section. And so that was traumatic. And then Miles's birth was an emergency C-section.
Braylon's the oldest.
Yes.
Miles is the baby.
That's right. And so through processing that, I just think as women, we don't process birth is a traumatic event. It is a traumatic event. And your body is going from one state to another, 3 states within a year's time. You go pre-pregnancy, pregnant for 9 months, you get used to that body, and then you come up out of it, and it's through this traumatic experience. So not only have you experienced that, but your baby has too. And so I'm like, holy crap. Another thing I've been talking about in therapy, it's like, oh my God, during that time, it was just, I felt incredibly unheard. I didn't feel cared for in some instances.
During the pregnancy?
During the birth.
Okay.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
Like a medical staff type thing. Yeah.
And that's a whole other story. But girl, that part of like just, before I got pregnant, I was at like, I felt like at the peak of my fitness. I was getting to the bag. I was just like, you know what I'm saying? You know what I was doing. And then I get pregnant, because that's how it happens when you looking right. And then your man's like, so what's up?
Hey, girl.
Seems like you're ready. And so I get pregnant, and that's
Kelly
cool.
reference.
What'd you say? Is this appropriate time to say no Diddy? Is this like a?
I mean, that's just how big. That's just how big of an impact R. Kelly's music had,
bro.
Like, you don't even realize. Oh, he's a fucking creep. Sorry, I didn't mean to reference him. You know what I mean? Creep. Just like Diddy.
But the music stands alone, bro.
That's a whole different episode too.
I'm saying.
Does the music stand alone?
Bruh.
Let's go to Luke. No, I was kidding. Tiebreaker.
Oh man, bruh. Like, so that happened and I get pregnant and but during the pregnancy there was a lot that
Now, mind you.
Yeah.
You were going through physical changes. You were also going through like a whole spiritual transformation.
Oh, girl.
I feel like you've been going through that since you started at the radio station. Oh. You know what I mean? Just like a gradual elevation of
new levels, new devils.
Awareness.
Man.
Yeah.
It's crazy what it will shape us into be. That's why I posted the other day, pressure is good for you. It's good for you in hindsight, but during it, that motherfucker
sucks.
Okay. Like, it's crazy.
That just like I was talking to someone. Me and Alex have this thing where we're allowed like one low vibrational. We're like, okay, that's our one low vibrational comment of the day. Because we'll just say some shit, and it's like, okay, I'm better than that. Like, all right, we get one. We get one. Because it's like sometimes I just don't want to be better. Yeah. Sometimes I don't want to do the work. I just want to be this piece of shit.
Because you feel like you're always doing it. And I'd be waking, I'm like, oh my God, okay, let me listen to my affirmations.
Let me meditate.
Yeah. You know how I be feeling about meditation. I'm still trying to get into it.
You'll find something, it'll click, and you'll be like, holy shit,
there it is.
Euphoric.
And so it's like everything's a journey, right? So some days are better than others.
Yeah.
But that's when I realized that I needed that slow space. It was during pregnancy, especially, like, and then afterwards, just regrounding myself after that experience. And giving myself that time to come into who I am now, because I am different. My body is different. Girl, can we talk about how the body is different? My baby boy, if there's one thing he did give me, is some hips, okay? Because boys will bow. And so I'm like, all right, cool. Just dealing with that and the perceptions of that society puts on us to like snap back. Mm-hmm. Bro, I mean, you go through IG, it's like, oh, you know,
she bounced back.
I'm 2 days postpartum. Look at my abs.
Oh,
like,
I have a fucking half shirt on. I'm like, what? Where's the surrogate? Because that is not.
You understand me? Because the fupa is pooping it. There was a baby in there 4 months ago. And I have to remind myself, there was a baby in there. It is okay.
Should we call this episode The Fupa is Foopin'? No. Okay. Do you know what a fupa is, Luke?
I'm familiar.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he knows what a fupa is.
All right.
Yeah.
We won't spell it out.
F-U-P-A.
You know what, though? What? When you said, you know, it's emotional. When you said when you were 15 with Bray, you just wish you're a different you than you are with Miles. Mm-hmm. But thank God you went through all that, because then you wouldn't be this new you.
Right.
Imagine you're still the old you.
Right.
Grown.
Man.
You know what I mean? I think it's just important, me too, to give ourselves cut ourselves some slack. You were so young.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, things happened, and like
it was kind of like the same experience with you, with your oldest Rissy.
Yeah. Well, Rissy, I feel like I grew up with Rissy. You know, my mom and dad helped with Rissy a lot.
Right.
I lived with my mom and dad.
Yep.
And I felt like, I look back, you know, I was still kicking it. Mm-hmm. You know, still drinking and all, you know, I mean, I'll drink a little now, but I'm just saying, like, I was.
No, I know
still
exactly what you
party
mean.
Carla, you know?
Yeah.
And definitely with Max, it's like night and day. I'm just like, I'm so present. We talk about this, like, I'm so present with Max.
You really are so present with Max. I love it.
Because it's intentional. Like, sometimes I'm on my phone, like, I'm like, let me get off my phone and just watch you play Fortnite.
I love that.
You know what I mean?
Because sometimes I'll find that it is, there's something, it's kind of like, it's easier, I would say, with Miles, because he's a baby. He didn't see all the icky stuff of me growing up. He's a baby. He don't even know anything. He just can't talk or walk now. So it's easy to feel like I don't have to hide, or like, how do I put it? Sometimes I'll feel that Braylon sees me. Mm-hmm. Oh, I'll be like, because he'll be like, Mom, he will read me. And I'm like,
because you guys are so close.
Because
you guys are so close. And he's probably adjusting to your evolution too, as a human, and, you know, your higher self as you get there.
Yeah.
And
do you feel like that way with Rissy? Like, do you guys?
Rissy is, I don't feel like that with Rissy, because Rissy's been woke.
Yeah.
She's an Aquarius.
Yeah.
Not to dive into no astrology stuff this episode, but she is just, I don't know. I don't know what planet Rissy came from.
Yeah.
But she teaches me.
Oh, yeah.
Like, she's the one who said, Mom, I think you really like meditation, like, a few years ago, and I was scared to death to meditate. I was so scared to go that deep in my mind.
Yeah.
I didn't know what I was going to find. Like you said, I was running from, I was terrified. And when I finally did it, it was like an orgasm in my fucking brain.
I was like, say that shit.
And I've been chasing that.
Yeah, okay.
Because it's amazing.
Yeah.
And that, I feel like that's the true meaning of being born again. That is the true meaning of that, because life has I stopped drinking that after that meditation.
Are you serious?
Not that I had a drinking problem.
Right.
I used to drink like a glass of wine at night just to kind of take the edge off.
It's just that awareness that's brought into your body, and you start realizing this does not feel good.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't want that. I want to go meditate.
I want to be with me, and that is
I want to be with me. And which, you know, you remember we did like some kind of thing. I know I digress a little. We did this thing at the station, Zeb, the DJ, and the question was, who's going to be single the longest? And I was the answer. I don't give a fuck, whatever. But I feel like we were talking, it was somebody, and they didn't understand why I was single. And I was like, I've been in relationships my whole life.
I was going to ask you about that. Like, that is something that we've never dove into. Like, so like with you and like Max's dad, your youngest, take me there and beyond backwards. Like, kind of just like, give me like a elevator pitch of your relationships.
Well, so me and Max's dad went to WSU together. We went to college together.
Yeah.
And we it was amazing. We had great chemistry.
Yeah.
But we were so young and, had our ups and downs and stuff. But eventually the years go by. He was amazing to Rissy because Rissy was little Marissa. And then we had Max and we got engaged.
Yeah. I didn't know that.
No, we were engaged and we just couldn't get along. We just kept fucking fighting. It was just little shit. And a lot of it was me.
Hold on, because is that accountability coming from a woman? Yeah, you don't see that.
A lot of it was me because of who I was then.
Yeah.
Sometimes I would try to pick fights just for attention because I needed attention. I wasn't getting enough attention and love, and I went about it like a child.
Yeah.
I would throw tantrums and do bad stuff to get his attention.
Man, really? Do you feel like that was probably the same, like hindsight, you know that now?
I know that now. I won't say that. Yeah, I could have been better. I could have been more loyal. Instead of trying to get my attention fix.
Yeah.
I should have left the relationship sooner if we weren't compatible.
Yeah.
But that's grown woman shit.
Well, okay.
Because
you will stay somewhere too long when you do not value yourself. And it's not
that
even
too.
It's not even about them being the problem. Even when you know you're the problem, it's like you almost fear not finding someone that will tolerate you.
Listen, he cooks.
Yeah.
He is a service person. He took care of me. And we get along. He's the most amazing dad.
Yeah.
I would not ask for any other dad for Max. We get along so well now that we're separate.
Yeah.
But he used to do things for me and it almost turned into a child-parent relationship.
Oh, yeah.
I heavily relied on him. I think maybe there were some abandonment issues with me.
Yeah.
I heavily relied on him. So the thought of us not being together, I thought, there's no one else in the world who will love me like this. There's no one else in the world who will do these things.
Yeah.
I just cannot live life and survive without him. It was deep.
Yeah.
And when I finally was done, I remember I never like cried about it.
Really?
When we were done, there wasn't once I just like sat in my room and cried. I was just like, it's time to hustle. It's time to like make this work, Rissy.
Yeah. Did it take you a while to like, did you eventually process it and like have that moment, or it was just kind of like, all right?
There's still moments now where I'm like, it would be easier if I was with him.
Okay, so let's talk about that. So what is...
Someone got offended. I said that I was dating this guy. He got offended when I was like, yeah, it would be easier if me and Max's dad were together.
That's real.
He got offended. He was like, why would you say that? And I was just like, well, I don't mean like I want to be with him. I mean, life would be easier. Right. How would it not?
Because it would.
Because it would.
Yeah. So that's...
I need to quit looking for Luke for validation. Luke's like, keep me the hell out of this.
Bro, I don't know. I'm a senior in college, okay?
He's like, you're not about to get me in trouble.
Bro, so now that you've healed, would you ever feel like that you could go back to that relationship? Or healed, right? We're never there, but now that you're different.
We definitely would be different people, but I feel like if it's not broke, don't fix it.
Yeah.
And I feel like we've worked so hard to co-parent.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to damage that.
Yeah. No, I get that.
I wouldn't say no because I feel like anything's possible. And I do respect him still, and he's a great person. Yeah. But I feel like at this time in our lives, we're not compatible.
Okay.
But we are so compatible as friends. Like he's one of the most funniest people I know.
Yeah.
We share a common interest in Max's baseball and his sports.
Yeah.
And it just works.
It's funny that you talk about, I heard you mention something that I resonated with, which is that I'm single now because for most of my life, it was relationships back to back almost like, and I don't know if it was as back to back as mine was, but I think,
is it better going up like that and then down, or is yours good?
Mine's good now.
Mine's good now.
It just slips sometimes.
That's what she said.
She's disgusting.
I'm so disgusting. You can keep that part in. That's what she also said. Yes.
It is so much easier to do all your healing and your shadow work and all of your jazz before you get into a relationship. It can be done in a relationship.
Alex, I can't imagine.
Girl. And I'm not saying that nobody's perfect, but we went through... When you took accountability, I resonated with that because I had to. And when I made that joke about, you know, a woman taking accountability, because you don't see a lot of women saying, hey, I was the problem. He comes into my life and he's done this certain amount of healing that I haven't done. He's at a different place. And I'm kind of like entering into that space. And so he's like, hey, I have this space for you. And I see this great thing in you. And I want you to be in this space. And I want you to frolic and do whatever you want. It makes you happy.
You're like, what's the catch?
I was like, what the fuck are you talking about, bro? I'm like, this is too much space. I'm like, I don't know what you want me to. He's like, no, just do you. Like, I don't have any recommendations. I'm going to be over here and I'm just going to support you.
And you interpret it probably a whole different way
A
than
whole
he's
different
intending.
way at that moment. It was like my lens, because we can only perceive as far as our lens will allow us, right? So I'm filtering it through this lens of I'm very narrow right now. I've only had one kind of experience in relationships. It would be a problem to me if he wasn't exhibiting signs of jealousy. That was a problem for me. If he wasn't checking in on me, if he wasn't like too pressed or concerned, if he would just,
God forbid, if he's content and secure in the relationship.
oh, it would piss me off. Like, not
and you don't want to argue with me about it?
Okay. I would piss me off him just like living in his skin. Like, and because I didn't know how to live in mine. So it would irritate me. His ability to be comfortable just with himself and be able to relax and chill. And it's like, dude, if I want a game tonight, that's what the time I set aside to do. Okay. And I don't have no shame about it. Or if I want to take a nap, it'd be little things like that I would pick at, because it's like my lens was so narrow. When you're not in purpose and you don't know much about yourself, it's so narrow that all you can do is switch it back to that person in the relationship and pick at it. Mm-hmm. Or that's really it. It's that or nothing.
What's crazy is the whole time you're picking at yourself. The whole time. It's just a big projection.
And won't sit with yourself because the relationship is distracting you. It was so difficult to work through the stuff that we worked through inside of the relationship.
I can't imagine.
Wouldn't recommend. But the place that we're at now, the versions of me that he's seen is like, I can't do anything but love him more for that. And it was tough, but it was like, okay, you've seen some versions of myself.
Yeah.
And now he'll make a joke. He'd be like, is this cool to do? I'm like, I'm not even that person no more. You better just do you.
Hold on, let me check what's her face. You're talking to yourself. Are we good?
Okay. Is he cool today? Cool.
My higher self said yes.
Real. Yeah.
Have fun with the boys. I'm trying to fight her back.
It be like that sometimes.
Because it's like familiar and it's habit.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Joe Dispenza says, you do things so often, your personal reality becomes your personality.
Yes.
And so you start... It's like, I used to get jealous in relationships because I felt like I wasn't being jealous and I needed to be. Like, I don't care that he wants to do this, but I feel like I should care. Wow. So I'm a trip just to trip.
Wow. I am the opposite. I will trip and then ask questions later. Like, it's like I would be so... I'm like, why are you in your phone so much? Like, why are you doing this? Like, I was definitely like that. And it's so crazy. When you begin to have and build a relationship with yourself, the bottom line is that no matter what happens, he would be crazy to ever do anything to betray me. I don't think that he would. But if that happens, I still got me. Right. And I'm okay.
That's why I'm single. End of episode.
That is why Carla's saying, and I get it.
Yeah.
I do. Because even now, I'm like, baby, I love you. But if if anything were to happen, I know that I'm going to be okay because I really fuck with me.
Right.
I do now. And that's what I grew into that in this relationship. But it was like... every relationship before that was so, and even the beginning of our relationship,
codependent
and based on attachment.
Yep.
And it was like, oh, if he leaves, and what am I gonna
do? I'm gonna lose my identity. Oof. I'm gonna lose my who the fuck am I?
Yeah.
I don't want to figure out who I am.
Yeah.
Because who am I without him?
Yes.
And that takes a lot.
It does.
Trust me. I had dark night of the soul moments. I would have nights where I break down and cry. It wasn't because I was sad it was because I was sad for myself, feeling sorry for myself. Also, I was scared.
Right.
Those are the reasons I would cry. Like, how am I going to pay the bill? I was so used to somebody going half on all the bills with me. So for a while, it was fucking struggle.
You had to trust yourself to be able to do that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
then I have 2 kids. I have Marissa and Max trusting my decision in that. I got to explain this to them. Luckily Max was, I don't know, 3 or 4.
Yeah.
So we tried to keep everything as stable as we could. But, Rissy had a lot. it probably felt like a divorce to Rissy. When we go back and talk about it, you know, she'll share things with me. I'm like, Rissy, I'm so sorry. Like things I didn't even think of.
Don't your kids' perceptions shock you?
Crushes me.
Oh my
I'm just
gosh.
like,
I didn't know you felt that way.
you know, Rissy will share posts about like, you know, like healing mother, like stuff like that. I'm like, was that how she felt? So I'll go and like, hey baby, do you want some food? Do you want to talk about anything? What I do wrong?
It's such a delicate position to be in as the mom, right? When you're dealing with your own mom trauma, it's like,
right. I get so defensive though,
You know?
and I'm working on that.
but then it's a whole nother world when you have kids looking at you and you're just hoping that you don't fuck them up. And I just want to be so successful one day that I could afford them to be in therapy for the rest of their lives, because I'm not going to be perfect.
That should be in parent one-on-one books. Just try not to fuck your kids up.
Just try not to fuck them up. But I promise you they're going to come out fucked up in some kind of way.
Some kind of way. And you're going to blame yourself. No matter what they do, you will blame yourself.
There are families and parents that I'm like, from the outside, I'm like, man, they doing the damn thing.
And then you dig it a little deeper. You're like, whoa, I'm so grateful.
Kids will find trauma out of anything. You might have fucking ran out of peanut butter in the kitchen and shit. We ain't really have shit growing up, you know? But it's like, it's going to happen.
Yeah.
Whether it's from us or from school or from... So I saw this post, right? I follow this page called It's On Site.
On IG?
On IG. And the post said, men only answer. She was attractive and she seemed cool and the sex was great, but what turned you off? And I really want the men watching this to even answer this too.
What turned you... She looked good on paper, but something about her just... You were like, nope.
What is it?
Deal breaker. Read some of those comments. I was like, oh my God, you guys went through that?
Do you know the one that made me sick?
Because it reminds you of you.
Okay, that's exactly what it was. He said she would wear the same bra for weeks.
Oh.
And she would...
How does he know, though?
I don't know.
It must have been the same one bra.
Because my man's not paying attention to what bra I'm wearing.
Right.
On a daily basis.
Right. Like,
if something about to go down, maybe.
What else did they say?
They said the screen door part of the wig was showing and I could not stop thinking about it on the drive
Not
home.
the screen door. Not the screen.
You know what he's talking about, though.
Yeah, the lace. Have you ever worn a lace front wig? Oh.
The way you said that was funny, though.
Oh.
Have you ever worn a lace? What the fuck was the point
You
about?
wore a lace front.
You wore a lace front rig? Nah, I haven't had that experience at all. Here, I'll let you do it.
Oh my God.
Do it.
By the way, Alex has like this privacy thing.
So
if we were in a relationship, that's me still working on myself. I'm like, take that fucking shit off. I need to be able to go like this and see what you're doing.
No, because I'll dip in over like that because it'll show like this.
Okay, so some of these... he said when she commented on this post when it said men only, she don't listen. Complaining too much about her situation and not doing anything to make it better. That's anybody.
Yeah, yeah.
She kept her kids away from the dad.
A lot of women do that. With my
It depends. It depends on the reason.
It does.
Just because you are fed up is not a good reason.
It's not.
If there's safety involved, yeah, but...
Right, but like, come on.
Don't be petty.
Having, like, with my brothers, I've seen too much of that. Their baby
Being
mamas
petty?
will be just here, like they dangle the kid like a
That
carrot.
is fucked up.
It is.
God, that's so fucked up. Designer mindset versus dollar store pockets. That's it. We're leaving it on that.
But who doesn't have dollar store pockets and designer mindset? Do you feel like your pockets match your mindset about
Fuck no.
material? Yeah, me neither.
But that's how I manifest.
Oh,
I envision it before I physically have it.
there we go.
All right, well, that concludes episode 2.
Good afternoon, it's Carla. Hanging with you on your drive home.
Wow. She's imitating me now. Let me see. How does Alex sound? Bro! Okay.
We're done.
Bro. You say bro really good. Do bro real quick.
Bruh.
No, you're like, bruh.
Bruh. Bruh. Bruh.
It's perfect.